I'm not gonna lie, I just really want to wear a Fantasmic jacket and herd crowds. So things that I've learned over my interviewing process is so much, and I think I ended up just forgetting half of them. But in all seriousness, the phone interview is the most stressful thing that I think I've ever done in my entire life. Tinkerbell showed up on my front doorstep and I let her in, and now she won't stop throwing pixie dust everywhere. No, it's actually my dog. We had to put a bell on her collar because she's so mischievous. We have to be able to find her at all times. She's itching herself again. So I stopped printing out papers to use after try 2. Try 3, I wrote out stuff on about 3 pieces of paper, and then I gave up on the idea because it just didn't work for me. If it works for you, great, but if you haven't interviewed before, I'd recommend having like no more than 2 pieces of paper in front of you, because then it just becomes a wreck. I would encourage you to look up questions so you can kind of get an idea of what they're going to be asking you, because if you look hard enough, you will find sample questions. So many people have done these interviews that information is all over the internet. A common layout from someone who's phone interviewed 5 times for the college program is that you answer the phone and they will say to you, "Hi, is this so-and-so? This is blank from Disney College Recruiting. Is this a good time?" In which case you respond with, "Yes, that is me. And yes, this is a perfect time. Thank you for calling." Make sure to always be courteous. Thank them for their time. Even though this is a part of their job, they want to make sure that you have manners. Write down their name because you will forget. So after that, they'll continue on with confirming what you wrote in your initial application. Are you applying for Disneyland? Are you applying for Disney World? Are you applying for both? Do you have a preference? If you were to get shipped off to Disney World, if you're in California, would you be comfortable with that? Have you lived with roommates before? That's a big one. If you haven't, that's fine. Be honest. Give them your honest opinion. Do you have siblings? That's important. Share that. How well do you do working with others when they're in close, confined spaces and you live in the same house? Very important, because if you end up in the housing component, they want to make sure that you're going to be able to stay afloat. After that, we've got some more questions about your preferred roles. They're going to ask you things like, what were your top 3? Even though they know what your tops are, they want to see if any opinions have changed. This interview portion, the phone interview, is so important, because this is when you tell them anything on your application that may have changed. If you put anything in wrong, tell them now. Don't wait. They're going to ask you standard operations questions after they ask you about your preferred roles. They're going to ask you possibly what would you do in an emergency situation? If you're working attractions, what would you do if a child was too short to get on your ride and they were torn up about it and really sad? What would you do? This, that. Be prepared for anything. Think it through beforehand. What would you do? Have you thought about actually having a position? If you haven't, it's very important to start thinking that way, because that's what they're going to be asking. Be prepared. They aren't lying. You have to be prepared. Don't go into the interview thinking that you're going to nail it the first time. You probably won't, but that's okay. Because somehow those Disney recruiters call so many people and they're so good at their jobs that even if you botch your interview, they're going to know if you have what it takes. So don't beat yourself up. Don't freak out. Don't overanalyze. I've done my fair share of that and it's not worth your time. So have patience, don't freak out, and take deep breaths because it'll be okay. When your interview is done, your recruiter is going to wrap it up with, "I think that's all I have for you. Do you have any questions for me?" And this is the moment in time when you pull out all the stops and you make your phone interview glisten and you ask them super smart questions that I know that you've looked up on the internet because you're super prepared. Trying to make yourself look good at the end, like shining your fingers. You can do this. But now, make sure that you have any questions stated at the end, or any comments, or any concerns, anything. They're super nice. They're people just like us. My interviewer actually had worked for one of like the CEOs of the Walt Disney Company over based in Florida, and I don't know how she became a recruiter, but she had so much to share. I asked her how she got to where she was and where she started in the company, and she had a beautiful story. And just know that wherever you start, and if you really want something, you'll find a way to it. Yeah, I did it. And I think you can too. So don't get discouraged, because sometimes the things that we want the most are the things that are going to be the hardest to get. Because I think that in the time that it takes to get what we want, we find out that it's actually what we want. And if there's any doubt, it's gone, because the desire fades after a while if it's something that you don't want. Don't be discouraged. Just keep fighting for it. They'll pick you out of the crowd sooner or later. Alright, with that, I will bid you adieu. And I will see you guys later, as, I don't know, I'll probably talk about something that is super random. But anyway, talk to you later.